Welcome to Living Ultra with Harvey and Kelly, where we talk about all things ultra running. I'm Kelly. This is not Harvey.
Yeah, I'm sorry to disappoint. My name is Jude. Over the weekend, I did my first 100-mile ultra. It was the Keys100 out here in the Florida Keys. And I know today we're going to be talking about crewing because the wonderful Kelly crewed me, and I don't think I would have been able to finish the race without her.
Yeah, so I always say crewing is like a crew can make or break your race. And I think back to Badwater 2022 and my finish. My crew made my race. If it wasn't for my crew, I don't think I would have finished Badwater. So I strategically put those people into place for a reason. So when choosing a crew, it's really important that you really think it through. So we're going to talk about just some of the things that we learned and experienced with crewing at Keys100, and you should be able to apply it to any type of race, cold race, hot race, and just going to go with the van setup. So, all right, let's get started.
All right, so I think the biggest takeaway is that this whole crewing teamwork process starts well before the race. It's so important to really sit down and kind of come up with a game plan and a strategy. You want to understand the course and what makes it challenging or unique. You want to know when you're going to be seeing your runner, how often you'll be seeing them, what those stops are like. And then again, understanding the course. Like the Keys, it was the heat and the humidity, and then the road really made it challenging. So we decided going into the race, like, hey, every aid station, you got to squirt me down with water, and we're going to change out my water tailwind. And that system worked pretty well.
Yeah, so we had a basic system in place before the race even started. And that was, always swapping out. So we had 4 bottles. He carried 2, then we always had 2 ready to go when he came in. So he would come in, we would swap bottles. We had a sprayer, like a weed sprayer, that is we use specifically just for races.
Felt like a plant.
Yeah. So every time he would come in, we'd spray him down, swap out his bottles, ice bandana, swap the ice bandana out every time, even if it still had ice in it, because just getting that fresh, big chunk of ice on your neck, I just feel like
we went through 70 pounds of ice.
Is that what it was? Yes. 70 pounds of ice here for the Keys100. And it was record-breaking temps, too, with, what was it?
Heat index was over 100, I think 107.
Okay, yeah. I saw 107. I also heard 112. So it was a pretty hot and humid race. So, yes. And the unique thing about Jude and I is that we didn't know each other prior to this race. I'm friends with his parents. So, Jude and I had to get really comfortable with each other really quick since I was going to be primarily the one doing most of the crewing. So we sat down immediately as soon as I got into town, and we talked about A goals, B goals, C goals, motivation, right? So what motivates you, what works, what doesn't work. These are conversations that you have to have with your runner prior to going into a race.
Absolutely. The runner needs to kind of set their expectations, and the crew needs to know the runner's needs. The runner needs to communicate their needs to the crew. One thing that I thought was interesting was Kelly paced me for 29 miles of this race. My dad paced me for about 12 miles. And when I was running with you, it was very different kind of motivation styles or, moving styles. Because I was limping for a good chunk of this race. I was hurting. That pavement really took a toll. But, Kelly, it was like, hey, we're going to walk to this point and then run and then walk and then run. And that was, that got us moving. And my dad, it was kind of, these motivational speeches and, hey, I'm going to talk to you as we run. So very different styles that I don't know which one I preferred more, but even just kind of those mental things and understanding what your runner needs mentally. And I think the lamb's wool was kind of a good example, a good little anecdote
that's a
from
good
that.
story, yeah. So Jude did have some hot spots that started forming on his feet, so we wanted to take care of those immediately. So if you ever have a runner that says, oh, I'm feeling a little bit of something here, don't let it go. It needs to be taken care of. So I am pretty fortunate that I don't have a lot of feet issues when I run ultras. I also wear toe socks. I wear Injinjis, and they have been golden ever since I switched to them about 10 years ago. So my biggest concern with Jude was feet, because this was his first 100. So he did have a hot spot. We're like, let's do this. His dad did amazing, read a book, which I will link down in the description, all about feet, on how to take care of them. 10 years ago, a lot of ultra runners used lamb's wool, and I don't really hear it being used a lot anymore. Everybody uses moleskin. Like, we have to find lamb's wool because it's like the best thing ever. So CVS, Walgreens normally carries it. We went to 3 or 4 different stores down here in the Keys. Nobody had lamb's wool. Nobody even knew what we were asking about. But I just thought we're going to be able to find this lamb's wool. So we told Jude, I'm getting this stuff. It's lamb's wool. It's going to fix your feet. So I wanted to put that in his mind. Like, my feet are going to be fixed, which in hindsight may have been a mistake, because what if we couldn't find the lamb's wool? And he had his heart set on, getting his feet fixed.
That's like one of the main things I was really thinking about was like, okay, soon this will be fixed.
Yes.
That was really, I was kind of stewing with my thoughts at that point. It was
Yes.
so much focus on my feet, which I've never had feet
Yes.
issues before.
Yes.
I've done a 50 miler, a 50K, and a 12-hour, and I'd never put a whole lot of consideration into foot care because it's never been an issue for me either. So it really caught me off guard when 30 miles into this race, I was getting these hot spots.
Yes. So we hit up every pharmacy, no lamb's wool. I connected with a couple other runners and crew that I had friends that were out here, and they said, yep, we've got lamb's wool. We're going to leave it at the next aid station, and you can get it. We can get it. It's got your name on it. I'm like, perfect. I was so excited. So we crew him, bolt down to that next aid station to get the lamb's wool, and the race marshal hands it to me, and I'm like, is this it? And she was like, yeah. It was not lamb's wool. It was moleskin, which is a very similar product, but also very different. So I got back in the van totally defeated, and I told Jude's parents, I'm like, this is not lamb's wool. So, but we're just gonna tell Jude that it's lamb's wool because he doesn't know, because he's never had to do anything with his feet. So we're just gonna tell him it's lamb's wool.
And that worked.
It did. So he came in, he's like, I need that lamb's wool on my feet, and
yeah, no, it's truly, I think a lot of it is just mental, knowing that I had stuff on my foot. It was my just mind kind of telling my body, like, okay, we're fixed, we're good. And there's still a lot of pain, I think, in the videos Kelly will show. After that lamb's wool, quote, air quotes, I'm limping in a good chunk of it.
I did tell after the race, hey, I gotta come clean on something. That was not lamb's wool, it was moleskin, but
so much of it is mental.
So let's talk about the van and how we had it set up. I think choosing a vehicle to crew out of is also crucial for the runner and the crew. For one thing, your crew is going to be in that vehicle. So can you crew out of a car? Yes. Is it ideal? I don't think so. We chose a minivan to use, and the setup was great. Really, and I'll show a video that's and your runner really doesn't have to have anything to do with like setting up the van, because they're not the one that's going to be using anything that's in there. It's the crew that's using that material. So your crew has to have an understanding of like where everything's at. They need to put it together. They need to find what works for them. So one of the big differences that we did crewing Jude is, like, a lot of times I've used 3-tier plastic drawers, and then just specify what products are in each drawer, whether it's like first aid or sunscreen. This time we did a little different, and we did individual totes. And when I say individual totes, almost like the size of like the tote that you would use maybe to store shoes in a closet. So little plastic tote with snap-on lids, and we wrote on those lids, so like whatever was in the contents, and on the side. So what made this really nice to use those individual smaller totes for everything versus like the 3-drawer storage system, we could just toss those totes out of the way if we didn't need them. Whereas the drawer system takes up a chunk of your back space. And those small totes, we could just pick it up and toss it, or we could reach. So they were very easy to move around. So I think moving forward, I will continue to crew, I think, using those individual type of totes. And then we had 2 ice coolers. We just kept everything iced down and cold. So 2, we used them both for, like, I think one we had mainly like water and drinks in, and then the other one we put our food and any type of refrigerated item in.
Yeah. The totes were really easy to fly across the country with too.
True, yes.
And we had, I think, 6. I'm trying to remember them all. It was like food, electrolytes, foot care, clothes, lights. There was one other. Maybe it was just like miscellaneous. But
yeah, it was miscellaneous.
That's what
actually.
we broke down.
Yeah. So yeah, we had those 5 totes that held like 90% of all of our stuff. The other thing that always comes in clutch, and thank you, Matt Garrett, he is the one that taught me how to do this out in Badwater, is bungee cords. Never go into crewing without like a canister of bungee cords, because you can use them in so many situations. And the one that I personally love is where you clip your bungee cord from one side of the van to the other in the back, and you can put a roll of paper towels on there, you can put a roll of toilet paper on there. We hung hand sanitizer, like with the little thing, we put the hand sanitizer there, so everything was super accessible. The bungee cord is huge. I think it's like one of the secrets, like with crewing, because
I hate having my hands get like kind of sticky and grimy. That just happens when running. Like, I don't even know how they're getting disgusting, so I was going through those paper towels pretty fast just to keep my hands clean. Yeah, another great thing with the minivan is it's got, when you've got your hatch up, you've got these like storage compartments over here on the side walls. So we ditched like all of our sunscreen in one of those. We kept Jude's toothbrush and toothpaste in another one. So those are really handy to use. They also have floor storage under the middle row of seats. So if you have luggage or bags in the van while you're crewing, you don't ever forget about that floor storage, because you can always stash a bunch of stuff like underneath in that middle row. Some of the takeaways. So I guess a lot of what we've been talking about has been kind of what to do before the race and setup, but you need to be adaptable during the race, right? It's nice to have a game plan, but you need to be ready to kind of adjust things on the fly, because ultra running is all about overcoming challenges and overcoming obstacles, because in a 100-mile distance, something is going to go wrong. Like, you need to be prepared for that mentally. You need to understand that coming into the race and just be ready to kind of adjust and treat it like a challenge to overcome, not like something that, not like a roadblock.
Yes. So yes, I agree. So I would say you have a plan on paper, and like I told you during this race, all ultras look great on paper, but something is going to go, and I'm not going to say wrong, but something is going to go different than what's on that paper. And that is that opportunity, and that is the challenge that you get to learn to overcome as a crew or a runner.
I think the big one, again, we talked about it a little bit, but foot care. Again, I knew nothing about foot care, and I did like pre-tape my toe. I had a toenail that was coming off, but I'm very fortunate. My dad read Fixing Your Feet. I kind of flipped through the book as well.
Amazing book.
And we kept kind of retaping my feet with KT tape and moleskin, because that pavement was just brutal on my feet and my knees. And, just being able to kind of adapt to that and deal with the foot issues to the best we could. And then the knee, I kind of knew that's something you just have to tough out.
So let's talk about sitting in the chair.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I think it is important to make, as a crew, you should keep your runner on their feet as best as you can, or as often as you can, because if someone drops, it's going to be while they're sitting down. It's not going to be while they're on their feet. The closest I got to dropping was like mile 53. We're about to cross the 7-mile bridge, which is this huge kind of morale buster. I was hurt and I was overheated, and I needed to just sit down in the car for a second. And I sat down, I put my head down, and I felt that AC on my face. And I just that was the one time it kind of flashed into my mind, like, this feels good. I want to sit here for a while. And I think I asked for a minute or two, and you're like, you're getting no more than 5. You kind of got me up off my feet pretty fast.
Yeah.
And that helped me, because that just kind of snapped me out of it, because your mind wanders while you're running, but it wanders to a lot of different things. When you're sitting, it really kind of hones in on how you feel in the moment, and how you could keep feeling that way if you dropped.
Yes. So I think that was a huge takeaway, is like always keeping your runner in motion, obviously, unless it's like a medical issue and you need to get them cooled down. This was a hot race. We should have looked at the drop, what the percentage was, but we can tell you there was 84 finishers.
85 and then 97 DNFs.
Yeah, 85 finishers and 97 DNFs. It was an extremely hot race. But keeping him, having that plan of spraying him down, switching his ice bandana, keeping him off of or keeping him on, I guess, his feet as much as possible. I think there were some times even when I would be like, I would get you prepared, and I'd be like, you go ahead and go, and I will catch up with you, because I just wanted him out of there. Keep them in motion, always keep them in motion as much as possible. Yeah.
And you did have some really race-saving equipment, because the ice bandana was kind of an adjustment. I didn't know what that was beforehand. And then the arm sleeves.
Yes.
Really kind of vital equipment, because I like running in a t-shirt. I know a lot of people like hot races and like kind of a light long sleeve, and that seemed a little weird for me. But Kelly brought arm sleeves, and dipping those in ice and throwing them on and stuffing some ice in them felt really good. And I think
right foot's pretty good. I think it's getting better. Well, we have been able to find some lanes
I think, again, that, especially the ice bandana, which I didn't know was a thing.
Yeah.
I think that really saved my race.
I think a lot of people underestimate the sun hitting the skin and how much fatigue that causes sometimes. But by getting those arm sleeves on, dipped in ice cold water and stuffing ice down in them, keeping that skin cooled off and protected from the sun, I just think I think it's a game changer. I think it's huge. I think it just mentally makes you feel better. You're not feeling the hot sun on your skin. So yeah, I'm a huge advocate of arm sleeves. Okay, well, anything else? Any other takeaways?
I think one last thing is realizing that, you know, the crew is just as much part of this race as the runner. The crew has needs too. You know, so when you're crewing, make sure you have food. Make sure you know where the bathrooms are. I know when we were running the 7 Mile Bridge, it was like, what, midnight, 1 a.m.
Yeah.
And my parents really wanted to eat because that was kind of their one long period of downtime, and all the restaurants were closed. I think they found like a Wendy's.
Yeah.
So the crew is just as much part of this as the runner. So you need to make sure that you're mentally sharp, well fed, hydrated, sunscreen, everything that, you know, the runner's doing to make sure that they're staying in the race. The crew has to be doing that too for themselves and looking out for themselves too.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on your first 100 finished, and it being Keys 100.
Yeah, it was a tough one.
Way to go.
Thank you. Couldn't have done it without you.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Jude.
Last 5K.
Last 5K.
Something we'll never forget.
Yeah. First 100.
Oh yeah. Tough one.
Tough one, Keys. Well done. Last 2 miles, Jude.
Cheers.
Cheers. For sure.
Do I look photo op ready?
You do.
Yes, Mr. Anchorman.
You do.